When I first heard about the case against Mr. Bivolaro, I didn't believe what my colleague in the European Parliament told me. Then I investigated a little and I wrote to good friends in the Swedish government and the Swedish Parliament, and they investigated the accusations from the Romanian authorities, and to my mind they found nothing. They didn't find any crimes Mr. Bivolaro had committed, so they released him. And I believe in the Swedish justice system. Voluntary work within an organization, within a political party, within a movement, within a spiritual movement, it's not a crime. This is a right for every citizen to do. Whether they want it or not, it's their own private decisions. It's not a question on law, on breaching the law. So the Romanian authorities must accept that there is a spiritual movement thinking a different way than most members of other organizations and parties. But it's a right to be different. It's a right to organize in a different way. You have to prove the concrete crimes if you want to punish the yoga movement. Have they been robbing money in the bank? Have they been stealing in the streets? Have they made rape? What's the concrete crimes? And if they can't put forward concrete crimes, they should simply give in and accept that this movement is different from political parties and other movements. But it's their right to be different. The facts were put for the Swedish authorities. They couldn't find anything. So they released KIRK from prison, and he's a free man in Sweden today. And I wonder on the motive behind. It can't be a crime to have yoga. They should come with a proof if they want to jail him. And they haven't done yet until now. And I'm going to raise this topic with the European institutions and will ask the Commission to follow this court case so that we safeguard that justice is respected by the Romanian authorities. Romania has a very bad record on justice. When they entered the European Union, it looks like they haven't changed it yet. If he has only organized volunteers to work for a spiritual movement, it's not a crime. It's a different way of organizing. It's a different way of making a party, an organization, a movement. But every citizen has a right to be different. Every citizen has a right to organize in a different way. It's not a crime. You need to prove the concrete crimes if you will be obeying to the Human Rights Convention in Strasbourg. And this is also an obligation for every EU member state to respect the human rights as stated by the Strasbourg Convention. They are all member states in the European Union. Also the Romanian government is bound to respect that. And I'm still looking forward to the proof. And I have now written to the European Commission in Brussels and asked them to follow this court case, because I do not believe that Mr. Bolaro will have justice in this court case.
Being in Brussels and observing how things develop, it's clear that Romania is being scrutinized very closely in Brussels. There was a report released in June by the Commissioner for Justice, Franco Frattini, and it was highly critical of Romanian standards in the judicial affairs and the judicial system, how the courts are run and ruled, and also the work to fight corruption is being monitored closely. And the general feeling in Brussels is that it's not done good enough. Romania must improve. The report, which was out end of June, criticized Romania very strong, but it stopped short of actually putting sanctions on Romania, which is a step Brussels can choose to use if there's no improvement in Romania. Particularly in the European Parliament, politicians are very concerned with this, because there was a lot of improvement in Romania ahead of enlargement. I've noticed with some concern that people are actually granted political asylum in Sweden because of the unjust and unfair court system in Romania. And this is, of course, now I understand that that other cases that are related will come to court. So, of course, it is something that we observe with great concern. There's no rule book that says, well, this is how you must prove that you have improved. So I guess Romania will have to come up with figures or cases or real proof of how can you prove that you have improved your system. I don't know how Romania is going to do it, but it's clear that there's a lot of eyes watching what's going on in Romania.
It never stops to amaze me that this case has not been dropped years ago. I mean, I took it to the European Parliament. The Foreign Affairs Committee's chairman was involved in it. He put a number of questions, and they said that they were making an interrogation into the whole matter, and came up with the answer that the only mistake which was made by the Minister of Justice, who had not put the right questions or had not given the Swedish authorities the right information. After that, of course, I do not have any confidence whatsoever in the Romanian authorities. But the fact that they believe that they can make it look like a fair trial really amazes me. It seems to me that their minds must be so twisted, and they must have such a total misjudgment of their own capacity that it's unbelievable. I'm very happy that there will be a representative from the European Union, that somebody from the Commission will be there, which at least should give some assurance that the questions are not going to be totally ridiculous and the whole trial is not going to be a farce. People hadn't volunteered to pick up the phone when it was ringing, to walk the streets and to give folders, to put up posters, and to do all kind of voluntary work. There wouldn't have been a June movement, and I wouldn't have been a member of the European Parliament. And a lot of political movements are doing voluntary work. I just came back from a summer camp where I was talking about the Iraq war, from one of the Danish political parties, where practically all the work is done on a voluntary basis, and where they give even half of their salary in the European Parliament to the political party. So there is nothing odious, dubious about that. I mean, it's practiced everywhere. What at one time is considered dangerous is later considered quite extraordinary. Take, for instance, South Africa, where Nelson Mandela was considered a terrorist, a dangerous terrorist, and in the end he became the president of his country, and all the doors were open to him, and he was generally completely respected. It all depends on the circumstances. As long as he was not in power, then he was a terrorist. It's the same in a way today with Palestine. The people who are resisting the occupation there are considered terrorists, but if once they get their own state, they will be heroes in the end. So history has shown that many times, that what used to be considered either terrorism or sectarianism or whatever, it can change overnight and be recognized which was the case with Christianity, obviously, with Lutheranism. For me, it's really very sad that a person like Greek, who has a total insight, should be away in hiding in Sweden. He should be teaching freely in Romania and Denmark and Sweden, could benefit from his teachings. It's so important. There are so few people in this world who has this total insight and who can make such a contribution to spirituality in this world and who can do the work of God. And this is what Greek should be out there doing. He should be out there doing the work of God for the benefit of mankind.